6th, June 8th. What day is it? June 8th Rotary meeting. Thank y'all. We're going to do I just have to point of personal privilege. I got to know. Did y'all know that y'all were going to be looking at me after y'all passed that follow-up change last week and said old timers could come back? Let's do the national anthem.
No, we're going to pray first.
We're going to pray first? Oh, thank you.
Gotta keep Andrew straight.
Thank you.
Let's pray together. Lord, we're thankful for the summer. Things slow down a little bit and we can travel and do the things with our family that make so many memories for us. So we thank you for that. Lord, we thank you for our speaker Bob today, that you would be with him as he speaks and give him the words. Help us to learn something that we don't know. I'm sure we will. And Lord, we just thank you for Rotary and what it does around the world. We thank you that they will be meeting this summer, maybe meeting now, from all over the world, from every country and nation almost, to do things that are good, to teach the four-way test, teach us how to be good neighbors with each other, and really help us to help each other, and really practice service above self, as our motto says. So we thank you for that. We thank you for this food, for Capri and all that have prepared it. We pray this meeting will bless you and bless each of us. I pray this all in Christ's name. Amen.
Amen. Thank you. National anthem.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave.
Okay, and before we sit, let's do the four-way test. Is fair and prosper, will live goodwill and friendships, will be beneficial to all concerned. Thank you.
Welcome all of our guests. We have guests today? Yes, any guests?
Right here. Okay, cool. Thank you. That's hilarious.
Hey, how are you?
Do we have any more guests?
I have a guest. Caroline, stand up. So my wife is a second grade teacher. She's off for the summer. She's up here.
So we'd like to welcome you all, and we hope that you come back and see us again. Thank you for coming.
Thank you very much for being here. Let's see. Next on the agenda, does anyone have it? Open mic. Does anyone have any housekeeping notes that I'm not aware of?
Real quick, if you haven't heard, there's a bocce bash meeting after our meeting today. Carly is coming, so for those who have been invited, or for anyone who would like to come and just talk about, we're doing a post-mortem from the bash. Please come after the meeting. We'll be holding it in
Okay. Health and happiness? Oh, yes. May might be even for good segue to health and happiness. Last week, past president went in and encouraged all of us to take advantage of what Columbia has to offer us. And we did that Saturday night. I was born and raised here in Columbia, but I did two things I've never done before. I went to a new restaurant called Hollow in the Vista. If y'all haven't been to Hollow in the Vista, it's fantastic. It is a little expensive, but it's very unique. And then we looked at Clue at the Coker Center. It was opening night, so I think it's all week or something going on. It's not a musical. I was very scared that it would have been a musical, but it wasn't. If y'all have an opportunity to go see Clue, go see it. It's really good. There's no intermission. It's an hour and 20 minutes of full-on action and the plot twists that they have. It's really good. So I would highly recommend Clue to all of y'all to go see it at the Coker Center.
Thank you, Mason. Anyone else? Okay, Mike, health and happiness.
How do you follow that up? Well, you ask for money. So, CART funds. Okay, we're coming up for the last couple of meetings of the year. We're trying to reach our goals. We can do it. So again, if you haven't put money in there, put money in there. It's very important. Some latest news on Alzheimer's research. That's where the CART fund money goes to. They are now doing infusions, in-home infusions. So one of the things they're really dealing with is proteins. And medicines through proteins, if you digest them, you take them orally, they get digested, a lot of the medicine goes away with your stomach acid. Now they're doing infusions, which seem to be working better, and they're actually doing them at home. So money like this goes to research like that, so it's great. I was looking at some research, there's some people I didn't realize that have dealt with Alzheimer's. Rosa Parks, Alzheimer's. Of course, Ronald Reagan, Margaret Thatcher. Some of the greatest minds, Robin Williams, dealt with it. So when you say that, things take people away from this earth too soon, sometimes they're still here and it's taken them away. Quote of the day, Mark Twain: the key to success, the key to getting success is just getting started. So if you haven't done this, get started. And again, it's for Alzheimer's research. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We're running a few minutes ahead of schedule, so let's take about 5 minutes, 7 minutes, just chat amongst yourselves. Oh, I'm going to issue a challenge, by the way. I may call somebody out of the table to give me some information on someone else at the table.
Play out there. Play out there. So they can go. I've never played before. Very cool. Yeah. Very platform. I got to know him. He started bocce bash. We did it. Yeah, we did it with them. Medical management, our company oversees all of our medical policies, pharmacy formularies, all this stuff. Some major health plan, utilization management. We do a good job.
We're all Blue Cross Blue Shield IT guys. They've all retired now.
It's amazing. Right. Now it's 6,000 employees, $9 billion company. 40 some odd subsidiaries, 50 states, across the subsidiaries. Yeah, it's like, it's just so, yeah, 38 plants. We're one of three that made money last year. That should be scary. That's what's happening. Utilization trends. Yeah, something that's right.
Smart for y'all to get out there, knocking the box things, and you sort of say, oh, that's $5,000.
Yeah, right. It's all you got to be back on like that. I don't understand how they make it work better than I mean, that model is still, I mean, that's what they still are. That's what they're doing. Now you can't make money in that.
So my clients are always building. They're on the lease, or something like that. Like the one in, West Columbia, across the,
The month's getting big. I was up in Greenville Thursday, driving by one of the great GHS facilities right on the interstate, and there's a brand new bond hospital coming up right next to it. So yeah, now see a win loss. I said it's interesting to see that. I said this was much longer now, granted. People our age that jump in patient facility. They're operating, and then actually put your some dessert. Anybody want to refill? Dessert? Sure.
that's why, I spent a lot of my time in Buffalo, Texas, and that's great.
Plastic gun with zero.
Where are you from? Army base. A lot of accidents. You're up there?
I've been looking for one place that was handled in there since like 1700s.
Really?
It was First National Bank, it was South Carolina.
All right. It's good to see you back in the room. I'm gonna go for the low-hanging fruit and ask Margaret Clarkson what she has learned from her table mates.
This time, he goes this time.
Speak up.
This is the wonderful thing about siblings. I will always forgive him later on. So in our group, what we learned is that dogs get Alzheimer's also, and that their brain is about the same size as humans. And so many, and also horses, so many of the same meds that are used on dogs and horses are used on humans. So if your husband starts to neigh in the middle of the night or starts to stamp or something, he's being treated medically like a horse. That's all I'm going to say. I'm going to leave it at that.
most of the talking. Well, Frank did a little talking. Graham got married.
Well, that's big news.
Graham has to change her name tag now. So,
Oh.
yeah.
And a driver's license, passport.
That will be. Right, so that's big news.
I love it.
Congratulations, Randy. Well, I think that is a fitting place to end this right now. I don't think anyone has any better news than that. I tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to ask Hal Stevenson to come up and introduce today's speaker.
Somebody asked me earlier why I look so dapper today, and it's just sort of to honor Bob, who I forgot was going to be speaker today. So anyway.
Happy birthday, Hal.
Thank you, thank you. 7. You know, I didn't even know what that was, and I thought, oh, I'm going to be 67, I get to do it, and then somebody said, no, don't do it. It's no longer a thing anymore, but I did it anyway. Okay, well, yes, and I've known Bob a long time going back. We were just talking about that. So I'm going to read his bio, just making sure I don't miss anything, and then I'll tell some lies about him. So Congressman Bob Inglis is now the executive director of RepublicEN.org. Bob is, well, how was this? Sorry. Y'all don't read that. He was elected to Congress in 1992, having never run for office before. He represented Greenville-Spartanburg from 93 to 98, unsuccessfully challenged U.S. Senator Fritz Holling in 98, and then returned to the practice of commercial real estate law in Greenville after that. In 2004, he was reelected to Congress and served until losing re-election in the South Carolina Republican primary in 2010. In 2011, Inglis went full-time into promoting free enterprise action on climate change and launched the Energy and Enterprise Initiative at George Mason University in July 2012. In the fall of 2014, they rebranded to become RepublicEN.org. For his work on climate change, Inglis was given the 2015 John F. Kennedy Profile and Courage Award. He appears in the film Merchants of Doubt and in the Showtime series Years of Living Dangerously, episodes 3 and 4. And he's spoken at TEDx Beacon Street and TEDx Jacksonville. Inglis has served as a resident fellow at Harvard University's Institute of Politics in 2011, a visiting energy fellow at Duke University's Nicholas School of the Environment in 2012, and resident fellow at University of Chicago's Institute of Politics in 2014. He grew up in the low country of South Carolina, went to Duke University for college, met and married his college sweetheart, graduated from the University of Virginia School of Law, and practiced commercial real estate law in Greenville before and between his years in Congress. Bob and Mary Ann Inglis had 5 children, a son and 4 daughters. They live on a small farm in northern Greenville County in South Carolina. And with that, I'm not going to tell any lies about Bob because none of them are very interesting. He's just a good dude and has done a lot of good work, and we're really looking forward to talk about it.
Thank you, Hal. Well, it's I'm not running for anything, so this is a good thing, right? This is with tomorrow's activity. I'm not in that. I'm not running for anything, so you can relax. But I will be trying to sell you something, so you want to be aware of that. But it is a little bit intimidating to be here with people who know me fairly well, like Hal, and then you know, it's always intimidating for lawyers to speak in front of federal judges. And particularly since I'm a commercial real estate lawyer, that means not much of one, you know, in other words, not much of a lawyer. And then to have people like Nicholas over here who says that I influenced his direction into the ministry, and that's intimidating to think that I had something to do with that. We had a wonderful opportunity to be at Canuga recently to talk about that. So all those things make it very interesting to be here in the capital city, which I must tell you, I had an early morning meeting and I've had some opportunity to go drive around Columbia, sending my sister a video of where my brother and I lived, and then she and her husband lived on the corner of Wheat Street in Edisdale. And I gotta tell you, Columbia is surely looking very nice, and some really exciting things happening here. And so, particularly with this Three Rivers thing that I was hearing about recently from the mayor. So I'm excited about all those things. And you may wonder, Inglis, why are you talking to Rotary clubs about these things? Well, it's in-house prayer. It's all those things about the Rotary Club international focus. The seventh pillar was added to the Rotary Creed, is a care for the environment. And then just our awareness that Rotarians are really deep in the community. As I look around here, I see that in full evidence. And so that's why we're out to talk to people that are deep in the community, because what we're talking about is something that is not currently playing on my party's radio station. And I acknowledge that. The tune that I'm about to sing does not play on current Republican radio. We even spell it a little bit differently, as you see. And so, but I'm here to predict for you, it will be the tune of the future. Because this thing isn't going away unless we do something about it. And so, so that's why I'm excited to be here, in a place that can really help us spread the word and make it happen. So, I should tell you before I show you that next slide, so some of you are thinking, like Mason here, he's thinking, I used to lobby him in Congress. He's thinking, wait a minute, this must be a new and improved English version. I don't know, what year was it, Mason, we were talking?
It's been a long time.
It
was during the first year.
Is it when I was...
During your first year.
Yeah, it looks like he lived, he died, he lived, he died again. But anyway, so, but yeah, it's during that first time. We call it English 1.0.
There you go.
So it's like this, English 1.0. Al Gore is for it, I'm against it. Next question. Okay, pretty ignorant, but that's the way it was my first 6 years in Congress. Al Gore's for climate action, I'm against it. Next thing. Then I was out of Congress doing commercial real estate law in Greenville, again for 6 years, and had the opportunity to run for the same seat again, as Hal mentioned, in 2004. That's the year that our son, the eldest of our 5 kids, just turned 18, voting for the first time, came to me and said, Dad, I'll vote for you, but you're going to clean up your act on the environment. His 4 sisters agreed, his mother agreed. That's a new constituency, I mean, you can change the locks of the doors to your house, you need to respond to those people. And so, step 1 of a 3-step metamorphosis for me. Step 2 is going to Antarctica with the science committee and seeing the evidence in the ice core drillings. We can go into that in the Q&A time if you want to know about what those ice core drillings say. And then step 3, another science committee trip and something of a spiritual awakening, which seems improbable, right, on a godless science committee trip. Because we all know that all scientists are godless. Apparently not, because this Aussie climate scientist who was showing me the glories of the Great Barrier Reef was clearly worshiping God in what he was showing me. You know, St. Francis of Assisi is quoted as saying, preach the gospel at all times. If necessary, use words. And so Scott Heron, this Aussie climate scientist, was clearly worshiping God. It was all over his face. It was in his excitement, what he was showing me. And so I knew we shared a worldview before any words were spoken. But later, without the snorkels in our mouths, had an opportunity to talk, and he told me about conservation changes he was making in his life to love God and love people. People come after us. So I got right inspired. I wanted to be like Scott, who's now become a very dear friend, loving God and loving people. So I came home and introduced the Raise Wages, Cut Carbon Act of 2009. Note to self, do not introduce carbon tax in midst of Great Recession when you represent perhaps the reddest district of the reddest state of the nation. It will not go well. And it did not go well at all. After 12 years in Congress, I got 29% of the vote in the Republican runoff that year. The other guy got the other 71% of the vote. That's a spectacular face plant in politics, you know. You usually don't lose that badly unless you've been indicted or something. Well, actually, that used to be the case. Now you get indicted, you might have But actually, if you're thinking about running for office, don't do it that way. It's probably not going to work for you. You know, the indictment route, it doesn't work. It usually doesn't work. So I hadn't been indicted. I was just on the wrong side of some Tea Party orthodoxy. You know, I thought I was a nice enough guy. I should be invited to the Tea Party. I was specifically uninvited. And I had committed some sins against Tea Party orthodoxy. The one that can't be forgiven, I'm sure, is I voted for the rescue of the banks by President George W. Bush. That's a mortal sin, I guess, in Tea Party theology. I voted against the troop surge in Iraq because I had concerns that my friend, he is my friend, George W. Bush, was doing nation building in Iraq. I had conservative concerns. Isn't it interesting? This actually could be encouraging. Political orthodoxies appear fixed, but they're pretty fluid. People told me back then at Republican gatherings, how dare you vote against our president? Same people now stand on chairs and cheer for Donald Trump because he trashes the whole effort in Iraq about once a month. Maybe it's sort of encouraging that political orthodoxies, if you don't like the current moment, just wait a little while. It's like, you know, skinny ties, wide ties, you know, bell bottoms, whatever, they'll come and go. So what happened then is when I got tossed out, the most enduring heresy against Tea Party orthodoxy, of course, was just saying that climate change is real, because it seemed that I'd crossed the other side. I was marching with the Democrats, and so a foundation came to me and said, you know, Inglis, unusual zoo animal you are, actual conservative, 93 American Conservative Union rating, 100% Christian Coalition, 100% National Right to Life, A with the NRA, 0 with the Americans for Democratic Action, the liberal group, and 23 by some mistake with the AFL-CIO, the labor union. They said, actual conservative. Will you speak and write for the proposition about climate change? And so that's what we're doing ever since. It's now this thing called RepublicEN.org. EN is for energy, entrepreneurship, the orienting of the environment. We're conservatives who care about climate change. And, whoops, that went the wrong direction. And so what we're about is this. We think that there's a really incredible opportunity here to create wealth and jobs and opportunities here in America, to win the race that we're in with China, whether we realize we're in a race or not, and to solve climate change while we're at it. Because what we think is this is a problem of economics that has an environmental consequence. And all it takes is a fix of the economics. And so I want to ask you a question. It's maybe a little bit of a trick question. What do you think? If you want to solve climate change, which do you think is more necessary? Oh, that's a trick question. Margaret's got the right answer. I think this is both. Right? And then tell me, Margaret, why? Why is it both?
Well, you can't do one without the other. I mean, you cannot. Free market, clearly, that's all of us. But then you have to have the government to support what you're doing. You cannot go alone. It's just a general thought.
Yeah, interesting. Who else? Anybody else got any observation about that? About the trick question? Yeah, because, you know, it's like this. In order to get this innovation, you got to fix the problem of economics, is what we're about. And so what we think it is this, get ready, this is where it gets hard, is can we do that? Could we untax income and tax pollution instead and do this tax swap? That's what that bill was that got me in so much trouble. The Raise Wages, Cut Carbon Act of 2009. So we're sort of out to sell that idea. That's what I'm selling here today, is the idea that we could actually change what we tax. So it's like this. You know, I grew up as, Hal, I think, mentioned that in Bluffton, South Carolina. You know, that's my hometown, right? We still got a family place down there. I was accusing, I know Margaret Clarkson down there, by the way, anyhow, so here's where we can see the challenge, okay? In Bluffton, when I grew up in the 1960s, this was the dump. You know how the dump worked? off of Highway 46. There's a little loop dirt road like this. You drove in your car, you threw your trash out of the ground, and you drove out. That was the dump in Bluffton, South Carolina in the 1960s. Somewhere along the way, probably because of Richard Nixon and something called the EPA, we figured out, hey, all that stuff's leaching out into the May River, where we're planning on eating the crabs and the oysters and the shrimp. This is not working for us. Line that dump. Okay, if you line a dump, it costs some money. It takes money to run a sophisticated dump. I haven't been to the Richland County dump, but I am sure it is a sophisticated operation. It's got a lining in the bottom, and there are all kinds of things that happen in that dump today as trash haulers bring their stuff there, right? And as the trucks go in, they're weighed. And they pay a tipping fee based on the weight of the truck. It's a user fee concept. Now, let's go back to the 1960s. Let's say that I was not 5 years old, but 1965, let's say, rather than being 5 years old, let's say I was running Inglis trash hauling. I think I probably could have gone to Beaufort County Council and said, can you believe it? They're talking about a tipping fee at the dump. It's communism. I mean, it's communism. I'm a taxpayer here. My business is here. And they're going to charge me for dumping in the dump. Have you ever heard anything as crazy as that? I think in 1965, I probably could have gotten a few people to go along with me. Go there today to the Beaufort County Council and try to make that argument. Zippo, not the most magnified, not the most left-winger. None of them would listen to that argument. Because you know what they'd say to me? Inglis, pay for what you take. Pay for what you take in the space in this dump. So, there's a trash dump at the Sky, and we're dumping for free. It's a little bit like the Bluffton dump in the 1960s. And the idea is to fix the economics by saying, hey, it's no longer free to dump in the trash dump at the Sky. There's now a tipping fee. That's what this carbon tax would be. Tax on pollution. Now, since we're conservatives and we don't want to grow the government, give me a tax cut somewhere else. The one that I'd pick, so we don't grow the government, the one that I'd pick is a payroll tax. There's a McDonald's near us somewhere, and right now there's somebody there working her second or third job. She's paying 12.4% payroll tax on that job right now. 6.2 that she sees on her paycheck, 6.2 that she doesn't see that McDonald's Corporation pays. 12.4% tax. For all the economists in the room, I think it's a pretty regressive tax. Her second or third job, she's being taxed at 12.4%. Reduce that tax, put on the carbon tax instead. Congressional Budget Office says in that tax swap, the bottom 70% of Americans end up better off. It's only the top 30% that end up worse off. They pay more. So now, let me admit that the carbon tax by itself is also regressive. If you put on a carbon tax at the mine, at the pipeline, in other words, an upstream application of carbon tax, there are only 2,000 companies in America that either mine coal or put stuff in a pipeline. The IRS could do it in a room this size. And only those 2,000 companies would report to the IRS. They're the only ones who keep any records. The IRS would say, how much coal have you produced today? How much have you shipped? We know how much CO2 is going to be generated. Pay the tax. $30 a ton, let's say, what's going in the trash dump at the Sky. What happens then? And also the pipeline people, the gasoline coming down, the Jet A or whatever, coming down the pipeline. That 30 cents a gallon, or $30 per ton of CO2 emitted, turns into an increase in the price of gasoline here in Columbia or Travelers Rest or Chattanooga of 30 cents a gallon. If it's a $40 per ton, it'd be 40 cents. If it's $100 a ton, it'd be $1. So that would hurt this person at McDonald's that I'm positing here, right? Because she's paying now 30 cents extra a gallon for gasoline because of my carbon tax. price for electricity went up by $11 a month in the average home. So the carbon tax would hurt her and other poor people. But if you're simultaneously untaxing her payroll income, she ends up better off. Because you can do some things about the carbon tax. Turn down the thermostat, put some plastic on the windows in the winter, drive less. So you can do some things about that. You can't do anything about that payroll tax, because McDonald's is not going to take the risk of cheating the Social Security on the FICA tax. And so that tax swap, we think, is the key to this. And it's the thing that fixes the economics. So back to what Margaret said, you gotta have both, right? If you just have this government, if you have only free market innovation, can't happen without that government policy that gets the tipping fee going. Because once a tipping fee is on there, then the economics start to work out. And so, so when we go around asking people, if you're concerned or care about climate change, you're not alone. And by the way, I should show you that you're not alone a lot, because this is a growing eco-right, we call it. It's a balanced environmental left. You know, an enormous amount of money is spent every year on the environmental left. Hundreds of millions of dollars in the United States. A paucity is spent right of center. Results pretty predictable, right? That it's going to be an environmental left messaging, not this kind of messaging that's right of center. All these people are helping us change that, our compatriots on the eco-right. And so what we're about then is showing that there's a way to fix the economics, and it actually leads to a result in fixing the problem of climate change. Now, of course, the thing that I haven't talked about yet, which is really important to mention, is once you get this price in place, the tipping fee in place in America, then without setting off another tariff war, you can impose that tariff on goods coming from China if they haven't enacted the same carbon price. Based on precedents in the chemical industry that say you can have a content tax, basing the content on the stuff the tax coming on the stuff coming into the country on the content of that stuff. This would be a carbon content tax. And so it would cause China to do the same thing. Well, I will take an example. There's a sheet of flat steel coming through the port of Seattle right now, right? They stole our technology, they manipulated their currency, they dumped a lot of trash into the trash dump of the sky. Some people have lost their hands and feet in the process, but here comes cheap Chinese steel, right? I'm a little bit sore about that because we make some relatively clean steel down at Nucor Steel in South Carolina, but here it comes, cheap Chinese steel. We apply our carbon tax. China objects in the World Trade Organization. Can't do that, impermissible tariff, they say. We think they lose that case based on those chemical industry cases. And after they lose, 24 hours later, because they do reach consensus easily in China. You know, it's not a very fair government, not a very nice government, but doggone efficient. Dictatorships are an efficient way of doing business. 24 hours later, why? Well, they just paid in Seattle a tax that's now being remitted to Washington, D.C. If they had collected that tax inside China, the money would be in Beijing, and the sheet of flat steel would be coming through Seattle with no adjustment. So 24 hours later, they got the same carbon tax. And then the whole world's following, because you're doing business anywhere in the world, you're doing business with America and China. And then 8 billion people start seeing the true cost of burning the fossil fuels. They see the cost of dumping in the trash dump of the sky. It's built in the price of everything. And so you go to the grocery store, after we've done this, right? This lady at McDonald's is positing her second or third job. We've reduced her payroll tax. She's now got a bigger paycheck. But she goes to the grocery store tonight because she's supposed to get plates for a bridal shower tomorrow, right? And so she goes to the Publix, and what does she see? Well, because here at Rotary Club we've enacted this carbon tax, we've cut a payroll tax, we've put on the carbon tax, we've applied it to Chinese imports. So she goes to the store, And there she is, she sees the plastic, the paper plates are up in price a little bit, right? Chainsaw gas, natural gas, drying paper at the paper mill. So it's up in price a little bit, those paper plates. But the plastic plates, wow, they're up in price. There's a lot of dumping into the trash dump of the sky out of those things. They're all petroleum, all natural gas, all the time. And so we're for freedom at RepublicEN out of where she just likes plastic plates. You know, the feature that you put the food on and you tip them down and it goes splat on the floor. I mean, if she likes that feature of plastic, of slippery plastic plates, go ahead and buy them and pay for what you take. But if she's cheap like me, with that bigger paycheck in her pocket, she's going to say, I'm going to save some of that money and I'm going to do just fine with those paper plates. It's going to happen on every shelf in the store. There's going to be some greener, cleaner, renewable thing that's cheaper relative to the dirty stuff that's simply been made accountable. And so what we think is that's really essential to conservative mindset, is that concept of accountability. It's just pay for what you take. And then we fix the economics, and then free enterprise innovation delivers at speed and scale, and we fix the problem. And I should tell you two things, then I'm going to stop here, your questions and comments, suggestions. One is, even if you're not with me on this, you're thinking, you gotta convince me about the climate change thing. Well, we probably end up in the same place. Because we are in a competition right now, whether we know it or not, with China to repower our lives. Because they are electrifying everything. They're 70% dependent on imported petroleum. And they're really feeling this Straits of Hormuz thing. And so do you know that they are now the largest car producer and the largest car consumer in the world? 50% of their car sales are now EV. So they have this company that you've heard of, BYD, that makes a car that can go 300 miles on a 5-minute charge. Financial Times was reporting recently that there's another Chinese company that now says they've got a 900-mile battery on a 6 to 7 minute charge. So we're having a webinar later this month. If you go to our site, you can join us, with the Deputy General Counsel of Ford Motor Company, who's going to explain to us that Bill Ford says they are betting the farm on a new EV. Ford Motor Company. Even though the Trump administration has eliminated the EV credit in America, Bill Ford says it doesn't matter. We're in worldwide competition. We got to meet the Chinese. And we got to get the price of this thing, Bill Ford says, down to $30,000 that can take you 300 miles on a 5-minute charge. That's what they're about. They're betting the farm on that. And so, whether we realize or not, we're in this enormous competition. And, you know, even war fighting at Fort Jackson, you think about it, even war fighting is about electrifying everything. It's a battery, it's propellers, it's munitions, and a computer. It's called a drone. And so, that's what we're in this race. I just wish that there could be a Sputnik launched so we realize that we're really in this race. And the second thing I tell you, then open up for your questions and comments, is if you're thinking, hey, he's backing up on there, he's got all of his right-wing friends, you know, he's talking conservative language and everything, and you're thinking, but his idea about this tax swap sounds familiar to me, and I'm a progressive. Well, it might be, because it's the same thing that Al Gore's been for about 30 years. I asked him several years ago if I could keep on saying that. He said, hold up, Bob, if you're talking a low, and I said, no, sir, I'm talking a substantial carbon tax. It's steadily rising, paired with a reduction in payroll taxes applied to imports coming from a country that doesn't have the same carbon tax. He said, yeah, fine then. You can tell people what you're for, RepublicEN, is the same thing I've been for about 30 years. So we have this hope that we could actually bring America together if we could just do the four-way test thing. If we could just say, you know, there is an opportunity here that Al Gore could be smiling while conservatives are smiling. And we could win this thing. And we, not only Americans, not only conservatives, but we, the whole world, the people of the world, Rotary International, could win this thing. So That's why I'm interested in talking to Rotary clubs. Let me stop and hear your questions or comments or suggestions. Interested in your suggestions as well. Yes, sir.
So, kind of surprises me that you haven't mentioned data centers and the vast quantities of electricity that they consume. How does that bode for the future of your organization and of this country, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, global warming?
Yeah, it's a lot of energy that we're going to need, right? And what I'd say is we got to have a lot more electricity, and that leads pretty quickly to other sources. The cheapest way to make electricity right now, is solar plus battery backup. I know that on my side of the aisle, we like to talk about burning rocks or getting stuff out of the ground and burning that. But the cheapest way to make electricity right now is solar paired with batteries. The question is whether we'll have enough of that to cover all these data centers. I think it looks doubtful because of the real estate it's going to take up. So I think what we really should be looking at, if we really want to come together in a Sputnik moment, is do what JFK said at Rice University in September of '62, is we're going to the moon, but this time what we're going to is a small modular nuclear reactor that can come off the end of an assembly line and that we can deploy all over America and the world, making a lot of money, by the way, while we sell them around the world, and also controlling them, hopefully with a switch to make sure we can do it better than the Russians do it, you know what I mean? We don't want the Russians or the Chinese selling these things around the world before we get there. And so I think that the answer pretty quickly gets to, I think, small modular reactors. But back to what Margaret was saying, unless you fix the economics, that ain't happening. You gotta have government policy to fix those economics, because otherwise, if you can get away with dumping the trash dump in the sky, go ahead and do it, right? But if you can't do that anymore, then the economics change, and you have all kinds of new stuff that's possible. Yes, sir.
Bob, I'm sure there's an answer for it. I just don't know the answer. How can we actually track the amount of carbon coming out of China? That may be one thing. But then you've got smaller countries, let's just say Germany, France, smaller countries in the UK, and and the UK, but all over Europe, and even around the world, to say this specific amount of carbon came out of Taiwan.
Yeah.
How do we do that?
Well, we sort of, there is a way to track, but it isn't all that essential if we do this untaxed thing. Because if you apply the tax to countries that don't have the same carbon tax, that's where the border adjustment comes in. But you don't have to track much else. You just have to know whether they're imposing the carbon tax or not, right? And so,
which is another factor of administration. You got to be able to say, okay, how much is Scotland bringing in?
right, and here's the thing that is embarrassing for me to say to my fellow Americans, is the Chinese are now cooperating with the Europeans on figuring that out.
Okay.
And we're not at the table. It's really embarrassing. It hurts me to think that America is not leading that conversation. That's the conversation that China is literally having with Europe right now. Because you know what? Europe, starting in 2023, I mentioned Nucor Steel, starting in 2023, Nucor Steel, if they're exporting to Europe, I don't know whether they are or not, but if they were, they have to have started keeping records in 2023 of how much emissions they have in the production of their steel. But starting this year, they had to start buying European credits for those emissions. So it's a 3-year ramp up and then the credit buying. And so that's what China is now negotiating with them, trying to figure out, okay, if we did this, can we have a diplomatic solution so that, yeah, we've got the carbon tax in place, we've got the credits in place. We don't want to really go through that carbon border adjustment mechanism rigmarole. We're just going to agree in advance that this is how we're going to deal with that. That's where we should be right now, negotiating that and leading them. Yes, sir?
About wind power, the government seems to try to quash it, yet I understand the Chinese are building a ton of windmills.
Yeah, they are. And you know, this is where, in my side of the aisle, we love to say, China's building a coal-fired plant a week. That's been true. It's no longer going to be true. China is going down on all those things. They're going up on all these renewables. They're going up on wind. They're going up on solar. They're deploying way more than we are, and they are after that small modular reactor thing. And so it's sort of, you got to keep with it. The old news is, yeah, they burn a lot of coal. They were. They have been. They still are. But their trajectory looks like it's seriously down. Because they plan on winning this thing. You know, we're in a competition. Yes, sir.
Two questions. What happens to the payroll tax if no more money is going into it? Number one. Number two, what happens if we do nothing with respect to climate change? I mean, what kind of scenario, apocalyptic or not, are you looking at if we do nothing?
The second part, I'd say, it's going to get hot and uncomfortable and all kinds of. I mean, basically, what we should be looking for is climate stability, or some sort of effort to restore some climate stability. Climate's always changed, but it's just that we're pretty clearly the ones that are causing the change at this point. There's cycles, and if you want to see that, there's a wonderful Business Week Bloomberg infographic at our website that shows that. It has observed temperature rise, and it says, could it be volcanic activity? No, that's down here. Could it be aerosols? No, that's down here. Could it be sun activity? No, that's down here. Could it be CO2? Nearly perfect correlation. And so, and then the first part of your question, very important. Are you an accountant?
No.
Okay, so, because you're in the 90th percentile in knowing that FICA funds Social Security. So it's like this. We wouldn't fix, this is not fix Social Security, but it does help Social Security a little bit because you're broadening the base of taxation. You know, the lady at McDonald's that I'm talking about, she pays payroll tax all year long because she doesn't make more than the $185,000 maximum this year, you know, on FICA. Bill Gates, within the first 30 seconds of this year, he stopped paying FICA taxes, right? But Bill Gates uses a lot of carbon. Guys have big houses. He flies on corporate jets. Bill's going to pay all year long. Pay for what you take, Bill. And as you dump it in the trash, dump it in the sky. And so the result is you actually broaden the base of taxation for Social Security, but let me not leave you with a misimpression. That doesn't fix the problem with Social Security. The problem with Social Security is you got to either increase taxes, reduce benefits, or increase retirement age. And I can say that because I said right at the outset, I'm not running for anything. Yes, sir.
Two things I'd like you to comment on. One is I understand that green energy production in this country is now cheaper than fossil fuel production. I know the administration doesn't want to see it implemented, but why don't the companies who are generating electricity want to see it implemented for financial reasons? And the second point is how far back is our current administration going to send us in terms of years in our efforts to green up this country?
Yeah, I think we are clearly falling behind. But you know, it's what President Kennedy said in that Rice speech. He admitted we were behind in the space race. We're going to catch up, he said. And that's what we've got to be. We've got to come together as Americans and figure out we're going to make up. Because we are clearly behind. And then the first part of your question, though, was about why is it, what's the most...
Why are the utility companies not picking up on green generation?
Well, actually they are. What they're not picking up on is what President Trump wants to do. They are not picking up on that. There is nobody talking about building a coal-fired facility. Nobody. Why? It's a 40-year decision, and he's got 2 years left. So there is nobody on the board of any utility in America that's saying, oh yeah, let's bet on this 2-year proposition against the 40-year debt that we're going to incur for this coal-fired plant. They're not doing that. What they're doing is they're trying to patch as much as they can with solar and batteries. And they're praying that somebody is going to figure out this small modular reactor thing. And so that's what they're all I think, counting on is that somebody's going to figure that out, make it to hotel. How?
You said maybe you want us to ask you about the Antarctica trip?
Yeah.
And what you found out there?
Yeah, so here's a fun fact no one tell. Most of Antarctica is a desert. At the South Pole, it gets 1/4 of an inch of precipitation a year. It's 10,000 feet above sea level. It's 5,000 feet of ice on top of 5,000 feet of dirt. And so they drill down through that ice, and they pull up an amazing record of the Earth's atmosphere, because it's only accumulated at 1/4 of an inch a year. And so what they see is stable levels of CO2, and then an uptick that happens with the Industrial Revolution, which only makes sense, right? I mean, if before the Industrial Revolution, we were burning wood to heat our huts and cook our food. After the Industrial Revolution, we're burning coal and natural gas and petroleum. Trees long gone, turned into fossil fuels, bringing the surface or changing the chemistry of the air. That's what's pretty clear. So that's what I was learning in Antarctica. And it's good to be there and see that. Yes, sir.
As a residential real estate agent, our worst nightmare is when we go to list a house and they have solar panels on the house.
Really?
Because the people couldn't afford to buy them, so they got them financed. So they're paying the finance company more than they would be paying Dominion Energy. Plus it ruins your roof. We have a theory in real estate that solar panel salespeople are above ground swimming pool salespeople who can't sell that anymore.
Interesting. Huh. So, yeah, I guess it depends on, so you're finding that people don't want to buy that house even though it's got the solar already installed.
Well, you got to pay it, the seller's got to pay it off.
Oh, I see. Yeah, and so they're concerned they don't have enough sales proceeds to cover it.
That's correct.
Oh, yeah, I can see that be.
Or either, for example, we sold a big old house in Spring Valley, and the buyer was approved for a $500,000 VA loan, but they had $30,000 worth of solar panels on there, and he wanted to assume that, and because he had been in Afghanistan and missed a payment, they wouldn't approve him to assume the $30,000 mortgage, but he could get approved for a $500,000 mortgage.
That seems like a bad decision by some loan officer somewhere, but.
We have time for one quick question, John.
Did your children ever apologize for your conversion and did you lose the
No, it's like this. What I would say to people is, choosing between the temporary affection of the political crowd, and I can assure you it is very temporary, and the lasting, admiration of your kids. I made the right choice. I'm very content with my choice. It worked out fine. So no, they haven't apologized. In fact, I thank them all the time for putting me on this path. So thank you for the opportunity to be with you.
Bob says he's good to stick around for a few minutes after the meeting if anybody has additional questions. So next week we have our own Denise Teasdale, am I saying that right? Yes, in the back of the room, there she is. So she's with the American Red Cross, and she's going to give us a little update on that. If y'all will, we'll close the meeting now with song. We're going to do America the Beautiful. Oh, beautiful, spacious skies for